used to be Jewish, never crazy religious though. If you asked me as a kid what I was, I'd say Reformed Jewish, not observant. My parents' marriage was not only interracial, but interfaith. Attitudes have changed a lot over the years, but when I was a kid, I felt weird. I didn't know anyone else whose parents came from completely different cultures and backgrounds. My parents allowed my brother and I to pick a religion. I chose Judaism because Catholicism had no appeal to me. For me, Jewish tradition sounded cooler. Jewish history, while sad, was very interesting, and a big factor was seeing my dad's family more than my mom's family. My mom's family didn't care that I chose being a Jew over being a Catholic. For them, you're believing in the same God. My mom always had a good opinion of Jews. Most of the Jews she knew were well off and very educated. I think most of them don't know I'm an atheist now and have been one for over a decade. How did I go from Jewish to skeptic to atheist? Stay tuned and you'll find out. My grandfather made all his kids get bar mitzvahs, and he wanted his grandkids to have the same thing. Funny thing is, my grandfather is not that religious. Doesn't belong to a synagogue anymore. His dad was at least a skeptic, maybe even an atheist. He said once, "How can I believe in the Son if I barely believe in the Father?" I think the only explanation for this is tradition. Usually kids start Hebrew school when they're early on in primary school, maybe around 5 to 7 years old. My dad felt that Hebrew school was overpriced, which it is, so we put it off as long as possible. I started Hebrew school later than most kids at 10, so that means 3 years of cramming Jewish history, prayer stuff, and the Hebrew language before bat mitzvah. Getting me enrolled in Hebrew school was a story in and of itself. My parents' priority was location, so they picked the closest one. Well, it didn't have a building. They rented out classrooms of the local middle school after hours and on Sundays. The rabbi happened to live in our neighborhood, so we went to her house to talk about enrollment. The rabbi asked my parents about their religion. As soon as it was revealed that my mom is a Gentile, they said I needed to go through conversion. I sat there confused. Why am I not Jewish? I've always identified that way. Other Jews accept me. I've barely been to a church. I've never practiced any other religion. For the Gentiles, the conversion process for Judaism is creepy. You will be submersed in a pool, naked, while a group of religious judges watch. This is the case no matter what the age. So, as you can imagine, that's really creepy. That's just the beginning. Back to the meeting with the rabbi. My dad refused to have me undergo conversion, since I was only 10. My parents and I didn't feel right about the idea. In the end, I didn't undergo a proper conversion. So to a lot of Jews, I'm still a Gentile. Yet to Nazis, I'm a Jew. This meeting with the rabbi was the moment that planted the seed of doubt about religion in my head. That autumn, I started Hebrew school. There are a bunch of classes: Hebrew language class, Jewish history class, and prayer class. I don't remember much about that time, but a few things stuck out in my head. Because I started Hebrew school later than everyone else, I was thrown out into the hallway with a tutor to try to get me caught up, so I was learning the alphabet while my classmates were reading proper sentences. Jewish history class was interesting, but there were some weird things. Like we stood up every class and sang the Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem. Sounds a lot like indoctrination. Kids are too young to understand the Israel-Palestine situation. I'm against the Pledge of Allegiance too, by the way. I think it's creepy that they teach you to say it when you're 5. And prayer class was where I really started to question if there is a God. One day, I dropped a prayer book by accident. All eyes were on me, and they told me I must kiss the prayer book, or something bad would happen. Also, the tzedakah, or charity box, was passed around in Hebrew school. Why are you expecting kids to give money? I know parents give it to them, but come on, we pay you enough money with the Hebrew school tuition and synagogue membership fees. Other than that, I was bored. There were a lot of other things higher than religious stuff on my list of fun things to do. I just wanted to be a kid. Later as a teenager, I realized what I saw in Hebrew school was just scratching the surface of what is wrong with Judaism, besides the whole God thing not making any sense. Judaism, I would say, is the least annoying of all the 3 Abrahamic faiths. And I'm not just saying it because I used to be one. Jews don't try to convert you into being a Jew like Christians and Muslims do. Jews are generally socially progressive, and many of them blend right into their communities, unless they're ultra-Orthodox. Jews are the most likely of the 3 faiths to be pro-LGBT and for gender equality. Of course, Jewish history and culture is interesting, and I do like to read about that, but I do not like the religious aspects. In my opinion, religion makes no sense, and it's brainwashing. The Bible makes no sense. When I was a kid, my cousin got me this Bible stories book. My dad read it and was disgusted at all the violence. He forgot how much violence was in it and decided not to read it to me. The things that didn't make sense were like Noah living 900 years. If he lived 900 years, why aren't we immortal? How did Noah get an ark that big? If God is so amazing and loving, why did he kill people? God making the world in 7 days also makes no sense. Eve being made of Adam's rib? How? You can make babies without having sex? Jesus walking on water? How was he brought back to life? I'm pretty sure this Jesus guy didn't exist. I never believed he existed, actually. The only explanation I have for all this storytelling is LSD. These people writing the Bible must have been high as fuck. Circumcision. For the most part, we're all on the same page about female genital mutilation. It's bad. Any sane person will say that bodily autonomy is a human right. So why is circumcision considered okay? Why do you have to be circumcised to be a Jew? What difference does it make? Can it wait until he's an adult when he can make the decision for himself? Babies can't consent. Circumcision being healthier or safer is a myth. Many Jews drive and use electricity on the Sabbath and eat cheeseburgers and bacon. Like we reformed when it came to those things, we can change the practices when it comes to genital mutilation. Either ban it outright or ban it for minors. I prefer that it would be banned outright, personally. Gatekeeping. As I said earlier, being Jewish is all about your maternal side. It's arbitrary and makes not much sense today. The reason for this is there's no doubt who your mother is, but there might be doubts about the father. Made sense during a time when we didn't have DNA tests and we didn't know what DNA was, but we have modernized since then. In my opinion, if you identify as a Jew and you believe in the religion, you are one. Doesn't matter if you were born one or decided to convert. How you practice and how religious you are is up to you. Sure, converts and born Jews have different experiences, but they are equally Jews. Recently, I answered a question about Judaism on Quora, and someone commented saying that I'm not really a Jew because my mom is a Gentile. It felt very invalidating. Most of the time, I didn't experience gatekeeping from Jews, but it's things like this that make me glad I'm an atheist now. No more dealing with this anymore. Birthright. Not everyone knows this, but if you're at least half Jewish, you can go on Birthright, which is a 10-day trip to Israel, paid for by a bunch of Jewish philanthropists, mostly right-wingers like Sheldon Adelson and the like. Face it, many people who go on these trips are just like me, not religious at all, and just want an escape and a break in the routine. Many of these trip participants use this as an excuse to hook up with Israeli soldiers and drink like crazy. Not me, though. I'm a married woman and a lightweight. 1 shot of whiskey and I pass out. Birthright is supposed to make you more pro-Israel because they shove propaganda in your face all day and deprive you of sleep with the early mornings and the late night activities, so you don't know what is going on and your critical thinking skills are affected, plus jet lag. For some people, Birthright turned them off of Judaism and pro-Israel politics. I'm more of an atheist now than ever before, thanks to Birthright. As I've said before, I want a 2-state solution and peace in the Middle East. Sexism. I learned about this during some conversation my dad had with my grandma. My grandma used to be Jewish, but now she's agnostic. My dad is the same way. Some of my family live in a neighborhood with a lot of Orthodox Jews. Growing up, my parents would drive to relatives' houses there, and every Saturday, you'd see Orthodox Jewish families walking outside. Doesn't matter if it's sunny or the snow goes up to your knees. Women are treated as second class in Orthodox Judaism, and there is gender segregation in those synagogues. Women are often expected to have lots of kids and stay at home. Not much agency or autonomy. They're expected to cover up their hair and wear modest clothing. It doesn't sound modern or progressive to me. Synagogue Jews. This certainly doesn't help dispel the stereotype that Jews are money hungry. Unlike with churches, you need to pay dues to belong to a synagogue. These can be hundreds or thousands of dollars, so if you're poor, no help for you. Even churches got rid of that. I can see the headlines. Millennials are killing synagogues. Oh wait, that's kind of true. I'm too broke for this life. I just saved a ton of money by switching to atheism. So there's my story. Jew to skeptic to atheist. I'm not looking back.